Hello and welcome to the Womb-Centered Healing Podcast. I'm Sama Morningstar and I have Hazel with me here. Hazel is a participant in the first round of the Bio-Mystical Womb Apprenticeship program, and we're on here today to discuss, for Hazel to share your experiences in the apprenticeship and some artwork that you've been making along the way, and share about that womb art and how that has been a part of your womb-centered healing process. And also, you just mentioned right before we started the video that you were getting some tea, and you were talking about your tea blend. And I know that we've worked with tea blends and in the apprenticeship and making your own tea blend, so perhaps there's a bit of a story there as well. So I encourage you to introduce yourself. I will invite you to introduce yourself and share a little bit about why you decided to participate in this apprenticeship and some of your experiences that you'd like to share about.
Thank you, Sama. I'd like to say first thank you very much for inviting me and accepting me onto the apprenticeship. It's been such amazing work. It's been both an honour and a pleasure. I'm Hazel Grove, I live in the UK. I do a lot of shamanic practice, shamanic work, and at this time in my life I just started coming into my coming of age. So I just finished, I was in the last year of intermittent bleeding, really, just finished a year of not bleeding, and I was feeling what am I going to do next, and I just finished a training course of my own, and a couple of close sisters told me about this apprenticeship, this womb apprenticeship course, and it's actually been much more synchronistic than I imagined it would have been at first, with the work that's been unfolding on the journey. Yeah, very much so.
Beautiful. Could you tell us about some of those synchronicities that you weren't expecting, that you've encountered?
So it's synchronized with my own coming of age. I'm going to start from where I'm working at with it now, rather than the beginning, because I'm becoming more aware of the synchronicity of the timing of coming across this work, and my own coming of age into wise woman. It's a window. It's not just a one. It's like maybe a 3, 4, 5 year window. For me, it seems to be a kind of 3-year window. And this bio-mystical journey is synchronized at the right time at the beginning to take me into my wise woman. And now I'm working at the coming of age phase of the journey. And my awareness has taken me around to, we have a coming of age when we begin to bleed, and we have a coming of age when we finish our bleeding. And in between that time, there's a whole growing from maiden through mother, through a big chunk of our life journey. And then we go through another rite of passage. So it's almost, I think I said to you, I feel like an Ouroboros snake. You're becoming aware of this cycle within a cycle, which is very beautiful. And yeah, it couldn't be better timed as well for where I'm at.
Beautiful. Yeah, because we're just completing in the phases of the apprenticeship, we've just completed the part about coming of age in menarche and recapitulation of that and revisiting that. And I think I remember you writing about a little bit about that, how beautiful that correspondence is and that synchronicity of revisiting that as you're actually feeling your coming of age into menopause. Is that what you're referring to?
That's right, Sama. Yes, and my coming of age ceremony happened in the dream time, and this is what made me aware. You know, I did the coming of age ceremony with you twice, and and I went into another space, so I didn't bring it all back. But I knew something was happening, you know, I knew something was going on. And then in the dream time, I had a dream that I started bleeding. And I was with my sister who was passed over, and she was there. And I started, in the dream, I was surprised that I was bleeding. And it was almost like the surprise, well, it was like the surprise when you first start bleeding, our first coming of age. And I said to her, I was like, oh, I'm bleeding. I didn't think I did that now. And she said, oh yes, it can be like a 5-year thing. And so I came out of that. And at first I kind of didn't really listen to her part of the message at first. I was more sort of like, oh wow, I've just experienced a coming of age. It's, you know, so this is what assisted my awareness into connecting the dots between our first bleeding and our last bleeding. And then of course her message saying, well, yes, it's a window. And I thought, well, and it took me back, well, yeah, well, maybe she could have been referring to our coming of age, our first bleeding, because like my coming of age into wise woman is a window. So it would have been at our first bleed. So we don't actually get regular bleeding, or, you know, it's a window. So we might start bleeding, say, when we're 13. But actually, probably between the ages of like 12 and 17 or 18, you know, there's this window and this adjustment. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of my coming of age from the current coming of age ceremony practice that I experienced with you. I had the dream time coming of age ceremony, and I had all this other opening up of my awareness of bringing around the Ouroboros circle.
Yeah, and you know, when you're describing this, it makes me aware of the fact that so little is talked about that window of adjustment of menarche. You know, I mean, a lot more, even though that's also, even though like perimenopause is also a big secret that few people talk about, it's adult women, and you know, they're talking about their experiences much more so with each other than, say, these, you know, young menarchal women. I wouldn't even be able to, you know, nobody talked to me about it at all. I mean, nobody talked to us about it then. And for all we know, I mean, I don't even remember, but I wasn't told to track my cycles. I wasn't told anything about how many days between each menses to expect, and any information that I've since learned about what that means about my health and my well-being. Nobody was paying attention to any of that and talking to me about it or educating. For all we know, young women who are coming of age, it takes 5 years or more, 3 years or 5 years of, you know, erratic cycles, and perhaps depending on what's going on in their bodies. And it's just something that's just not even paid any attention to. And yet there's all kinds of science and research behind it that says that the menstrual cycle is an important vital sign, especially for young women, that can sort of tell us if there's some underlying health issues or imbalances that are important to address. And yet it's completely ignored for the most part. And so, wow, this Ouroboros of the menarche and the perimenopause and menopause is such a beautiful image. Have you done any artwork about that?
Not yet, but I'm feeling maybe there might be some coming on.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's interesting just what you were saying as well about, and there's the whole, you know, as young females, there's the whole moon cycle as well, isn't there? And how we, you know, we're not taught about, and how our sort of moods and our psyche are connected with those rhythms. So there's the whole, I think this is where I'm feeling very excited about your cards. because you know, these are going to give, you know, in your work, you know, not just your cards but your whole, you know, it's giving access to it's giving all this information and experience. It's giving that to the younger generations. That, you know, it's going to be very profound, and I'm very excited about that.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. I'm excited about it too. So the Bio-Mystical Womb Oracle deck are the cards we're referring to here for listeners who maybe you have heard the announcements about them or other episodes about this. And it's turning into quite a co-creative process to put this oracle card deck together, because as we're looking for artwork to put on the cards, it became apparent that I didn't have to do all that alone, do all the artwork alone. I was not feeling like that was my job in the first place. And then in looking for artwork to use, it became clear that, well, we needed permission from the artists to use it, and who better to give artwork that we could use than the people that had participated in the Bio-Mystical Womb program, apprenticeship program, and other people that have been following my womb-centered healing work and womb-centered healing work in general, that we're creating artwork out of this exploration from the womb art, from this exploration of recentering on the source of life in our bodies and where our spirit actually incarnates through into physical form. And so that there's a different quality of art that occurs from those places that is what we're looking for. And you know, we're finding it in like George O'Keeffe pieces, but we're not going to get permission from George O'Keeffe to use her artwork in our oracle card deck, you know, not without paying a big, you know, licensing fee or something. So but then all of these, as I put the word out and the request out for artists who might want to participate in the project, suddenly all of this artwork is just flooding in of really high quality, intensely, you know, attuned to the message of this oracle card deck. I would love for you to share some of your artwork that you're considering contributing to the project. I know we talked about that before, and you might, if you're ready to share some and share the story behind it, I would love to hear that.
Okay, Salma, so I'd like to share with you, so I'm going to go back to the beginning now of when I joined the apprenticeship, and the first piece of artwork that I was inspired to make, and I made this artwork. So this is a representation of my womb. I don't know if you can see the colours here. So it's made from soft velvet. If I bring it down like this. So there's the top. So she's got cups at the top, around the top, and she's a padded velvet womb. And she's got like an opening there, which kind of looks a bit like a tongue as well.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got red tassels representing the blood flow. So these parts of the top represent my ovaries and my egg, and being a receptor for womb information. Mm-hmm. So it's like they're being a receptor for my womb information. And she kind of has a changing face on her, which changes. But this part here represents the vaginal opening, so coming from the womb. And this is the blood. The tassels represent the blood that flows from the womb space. So it's kind of gone from the receptive ovaries, which receive and transmit the information through the womb and out through the blood.
Beautiful.
And this piece came alive. So she went on my altar straight away, and she kind of took on an energy of her own. And she became like a physical portal or a physical catalyst for me to begin to receive wisdom from my womb. So this was at the beginning of the journey. And at the start, I had a little resistance to the R breathing in making the sound, which actually I do loads now.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a little bit of resistance to the sound and the R breathing. And this piece of artwork, she came and I put her on my altar. And then it wasn't long before I actually really settled into the R breathing, and I look at her as I was breathing, and yeah, she became a catalyst.
Mm.
And now I'm much more. I was not practiced, but she's still there all the time, and I do connect with her, and it's much easier for me now to be receiving wisdom and information from my womb has actually snowballed since then, since this. So yeah, it was my first piece of artwork, and that's how she relates with me.
Beautiful. Well, I just, in case listeners don't know what you're referring to with the ah breathing, maybe we can just demonstrate a little bit and take a few ah breaths here, and listeners can join us. So all it is you take a deep breath through your nose, and then on the exhale, you let out the ah sound, and even let it be a sighing sound. Ah. And it's such a primal way to breathe that you might even recognize as a natural way that we breathe when we're releasing tension and starting to relax. And it also, the ah sound nourishes the heart, and therefore it will be nourishing to the blood and the womb. I feel like it nourishes both our upper heart and our chest and our lower heart, our womb, and helps us to relax and really embody. And so there's a lot of social sanctions against that kind of relaxation, that kind of embodiment, that kind of breathing. So it could be uncomfortable at first to really relax that much and really release whatever emotions need to release through the voice in order to relax. And so so it's a very central practice in the womb centered, in the Bio-Mystical Womb Apprenticeship, and a lot of womb centered healing work that I've participated in. So just to give anyone who's listening wondering what's the ah breathing, well, there you have it. Thank you for demonstrating with me, Hazel, and for making such beautiful artwork to nourish that practice for you. And or you might not have known it was going to do that for you, but I'm so glad that it did.
Thank you, Salma. And I think that is really, that sentence is really embodying your work, or how I've experienced it, because I do a practice, going back to the beginning again, engage in a practice, and I would receive the information or the experience. But it's only as the journey is unfolding, and really what we're about halfway through now, on the coming of age, I think we're probably about halfway through. And it's really been in the last sort of 6 weeks since the placenta burial, that everything, there's more than one thing unfolding now. It's all kind of coming together. Like I said, this aura, you know, it was kind of one thing. It was like a practice and a one thing, you know, and a practice and another thing. And then, you know, you do these practices. It's like, wow, yes, I experienced this. Wow, yes, I experienced that. But you don't realise at the time until further on actually how they're all weaving together, and how they're going to unfold for you in a myriad of different ways on different levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing that's so surprising or even appalling to me about what you just stated, that we don't realize how everything weaves together, is that the program, the apprenticeship program, is based on our life cycle. So we start out with connecting with our spirit before we're conceived, and then re-experience our conception, our gestation, our birth, and then our process of growing up and the parenting that we received, and then our coming of age and through the life, right? Well, if we think about it logically, all of that is completely inextricably interwoven, and one thing leading to the next, and certain choices or experiences naturally evolving into the next experience or choice. And yet, because these passages from one phase of life to the next have been so neglected, because this passage from spirit to physical form that happens during conception, because this passage from being inside the mother's womb, from gestation to birth and being born and being outside the mother's womb, all of these passages have been so neglected by our societal approaches to them and by misinformation and ignorance about the importance of them for so many generations, that we feel like disjointed beings, that we feel disconnected from our very self. We feel disconnected from our soul. And all of the healing practices that we're doing are trying to reconnect us. But until we really go back and reclaim those moments of passage and give them the attention that they need, how we were conceived, what decision we made to incarnate in this body with these parents, and what purpose we had in doing so, and how we were gestated, how we were born, and reclaiming all of these passages in our lives, all of these comings of age, if you will, these moments of great initiation into the next phase of our lives, then if we don't reclaim those moments like we're doing in this program, then we remain disjointed and disconnected from essential parts of ourselves. And there's parts of us that get lost in that dismissal and of these important transformations that we go throughout our lives that are associated with the womb. And because of that dismissal, we're disconnected from ourselves. So it was just so poignant to me when you said that you wouldn't have expected it, and that's why, because we're made to. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're that state that we are in is so disjointed that we don't even see how connected it really is. So I'm so glad that it's weaving together, and these connections are, and this is exactly the essence of this work for me. And I'm so glad that we get to articulate it together.
Yeah. And the disempowerment of feminine energy, the indoctrination and the disempowerment that's come, it runs so deep that this work that you're doing also runs very deep, so it's really the work's never done. You think that you've this or know that about yourself, but actually it's not. And this womb work, I did a lot of work on myself for a long time, and a lot of work with others. And I'm getting intuition and messages from my higher self, but I never actually gave attention to my womb and the passages. So this is, this work is really very powerful in getting rid of that disempowerment and those programs that have been ingrained in our consciousness and those of our ancestors for a long time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So did you have, well, speaking of ancestors, did you want to show some of the ancestral artwork that you made? It wasn't that next? Was that the next pieces that you created? Was the ancestral artwork?
It was no. There was a bit of artwork in between, but I'll come to that. I'll do the ancestors as we're on the ancestors. So the ancestors came to me when I was. It's nice because I'm kind of working a bit backwards now as well. When for my rebirthing ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I was all ready to do my rebirthing ceremony, and it didn't happen. And I did my breathing. It's like, okay, what, okay, why, I feel everything's ready. My head's telling me, I'm ready to do my rebirthing. Why isn't it happening? I kind of did my heart breathing, and that's it. I went to my paints. I went to my acrylic paints, and I had some canvases. And over the course of 24 hours, 7 faces, beings who told me they were there. My ancestors came to surround me for my rebirthing, and it was like, and then when they'd all come through, it was like I was ready to have my rebirthing ceremony. So I'll show you who came through. There's not actually in order. So there's this one here who came out in a sort of golden yellow colour.
Mm-hmm.
And she's kind of, I feel that she's quite light. I feel that maybe she's a bit more from the she's just kind of got a lightness about her, almost maybe that she hasn't had a physical body, but she has. That's the only way I can maybe articulate that one. Whereas this one's very much had a physical body, maybe a South American. And I've worked closely with South American medicines, and I have quite a connection there. So he was the first one to come out. And then I had this ancestor here, who I feel, she told me she's from my father's side. Now I don't really know my father. I don't really know any of my father's ancestors on his lineage, but she said that she was from his lineage.
As you're holding that one up next to your own face, I'm seeing the resemblance actually.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Like just in the shape of your face, definitely seeing a resemblance there for sure in the shape of your smile. And yeah,
well,
beautiful.
Thank you for that. So, so she was on my father's side. And then I do believe he was quite Native American. I had a very big Native American connection.
Well, and even in that one, I'm seeing a resemblance in your face. Can you move it back next to your face a little bit more so that we see the light? Yeah, there's an essence to each of these that I can see in you as well. Wow, that's pretty amazing. I had never seen these next to your face before. Like you showed them, you sent in pictures of them, but not right next to your face. That's pretty powerful to see.
That's pretty powerful to receive. Thank you, Sama. I haven't actually looked at my face and showed anyone, so it's actually really powerful to receive that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not sure about this one. Maybe not so quiet likeness. He said he was an old Eskimo. It's like old. He kept shifting quite a lot as well. It's almost like he didn't come out so easy as the other ones. But yeah, that was that one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there was this being here, which I'm not sure what star system or where this one comes from.
So these all came in sort of visionary form to you, and and then you did your best. You painted them, and
they didn't even come in visionary form, Sama. It's like I said, I did my art breathing, went to the paints, and it's like they just painted themselves. So I had no real vision as such. And to be honest, it didn't take long for them to come to manifest either. And I'm not that articulate with paints. You know, I've done chalkings of lots of faces with chalk, but not with acrylic paint. So you know, it's quite a something.
Mm-hmm.
And this one here, who's a sort of tribally.
Yeah, with the spiral symbols in there, and is it purple kind of colors? And
He is. He's like purples and pinks.
amazing,
Yeah.
beautiful. Did
And yeah.
did any names come through for these?
I haven't actually asked any names, actually, interestingly. Maybe I could at some point do maybe make a little ceremony and sit with these rebirthing ancestors.
Beautiful.
Ask my womb, see what more information I get.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. So, so this was when you were preparing for your rebirthing ceremony. This came through. The paints came. The paint said, "This is it. We're doing this now." And you started painting, and these faces came through. Is that right?
Yeah. And this has happened more than once on this work, Sama. It's my, you know, I get ready, and my head will say like, right, okay, I'm ready to do this now, and it's like, yeah, my womb, or I feel, you know, no, it's not, you know, oh, okay, so I'll breathe and wait, and then I just allow what it is. And in this instance, it was the paint.
Mm-hmm.
In the other instance, there was it was my reconception ceremony,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I thought I was ready for it, and I was like, and I've had so much work, so much from this course. I'm just endeavouring to go back into that space. I was ready to do my reconception, and I wanted to do that was with the Dancing with Venus ceremony, and I was thinking that, and I was ready, and I knew I wanted to do it, and it was like, okay, well, you know, maybe I want to do, maybe I'll do it in water, maybe I want to do it in the bath, and I thought I was ready, and I didn't, so I thought, right, okay, I'm going to go and have a bath, and I'll take the computer upstairs, and I'll do the ceremony while I'm in the bath. But that didn't happen. I did another meditation of yours, which I can't quite recall at the moment. But there was another meditation around that time, which I put on, and I took this bath, and went back into the womb, and the important bit with me, I'm going to cut it short to the important bit because it's going to come back to my artwork, was I saw a purple embryo coming in and out of my vision in that bath. So yeah, so then after that happened, I was ready to do my reconception ceremony. So again, it was my head sort of telling me, oh, you know, you're ready to do this, and then no, that's my head saying that, just breathe. Just give myself space and breathe, and just allow what it is to flow through. And I've got the information like water, you know, before I did the bath. So that was that. And then I had the one-to-one ceremony with you, didn't I? It was my womb wellness, but because I've stopped bleeding, we did some other work, and you did a meditation with me where I was to bring a gift to my womb, and I'd forgotten at that time that I saw, and it was very when I was in the bath. It was in the distance. It was very little, yes, and I didn't even remember it until our one-to-one. And I brought in a gift for my womb, and the gift was a purple embryo,
Mm.
and yeah, that has been, and I'd painted, and it was in my 3-year window of this rite of passage, first of all, I'd painted like a green round, green circles going in, it looked like it was going in, and it stayed that way for probably a year, maybe a year or more. And I kept looking at it, thinking, "What am I going to do with that?" And just kind of leave it there. And then, not too long ago, maybe in my second year, it's just like, oh yeah, you know, like trees need to go there. I need to put trees there. So I kind of put trees holding the space but circling round, and I did this figure, and this figure was in a slightly different green, so it was almost invisible, but you could kind of see the outline, and it looked like a figure sitting in between the trees at the bottom of this circle, which is now, to me, obviously the womb circle. And that sat there. That was like that before I'd started the apprenticeship. And then I just looked at it after that gift, and it was like, of course, that is a representation of me, that purple embryo. And the figure actually looks like an embryo. So if you look at it one way, it looks like a figure with the head and the knees up, but it's done in such a kind of flowy shape that from the other way it looks like an embryo. So I filled that in purple, and I have this physical embodiment of, you know, this like auroboric. And I'm just going to jump just briefly to one of the very first journeys that I did on the apprenticeship, when you take us into the earth space, to our womb space inside the earth. And when I first did it, I started going up like a tree. It's like I wasn't going into the earth, I was going up. And the more you went down, the more my branches went up, until when you reached the womb space, I reached the sky. And I was like this, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of my experience. I'll do it again. And, you know, when I did it again, I went down into the earth and found my womb space in the womb. So even then, and that was at the very beginning, I think probably one of the first journeys that I did. And so it's kind of brought in this, that's how I say, it's kind of bringing together for me on so many different levels. It's like a mirror of my, so my womb art was my physical womb, representing my physical womb. And then I've got this rite of passage of myself going into another phase of myself being birthed, like a spiritual self, which is what the green womb is, and the purple embryo. So it's almost like this mirror, this tree of life. And I was actually gifted a mirror in the ancestral journey after the tree journey. From our pool, I was gifted a mirror. So that's what I'm saying about the, you know, the individual things all kind of like coming together. That wasn't too disjointed.
Yeah, well, so can you show us this painting that you started painting before you even started the apprenticeship, and that you had the green sphere, which I remember you describing this green sphere as coming to you in one of these meditations, and then the purple embryo, and then I think I remember you discovering that you had already painted this picture, and all that was needed was the purple embryo.
The purple, that's right, yeah. So here it is. So I'm going to start from the top. So
tops of the trees there.
Tops of the trees.
Yeah. And this blue-green
sort of
womb space, yes.
Yeah. With the purple. So from one end, from see, I kind of see, when I painted it, I just kind of saw a figure. I just saw like a head coming down with knees up here. And then when I was gifted with a purple embryo, and I looked at it, I was like, well, actually, this is like the head of the embryo coming round. This is like the fetus, the head here coming around here. So, and again, it's like an auroboric snake. It's both the fetus and the grown and the adult being.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed it is. Beautiful, beautiful.
So it's like it was it's like it's like somehow it was like waiting for my awareness to fill it in. You know, it's waiting for this work that I'm doing with you, Sarah. It's waiting to kind of fill it in. So yeah, I mean, it's been profound on many levels. This bio-mystical womb journey, for sure.
Well, I'm so grateful for your sensitivity and willingness and availability to participate so fully, and with all of your background in all of the visionary work that you've done in the past. It seems like you were perfectly prepared to just receive these hints of where to look for this womb wisdom that I'm offering in the program, and then just really go on that journey with yourself of discovery and fill in the blanks of what pieces perhaps needed to be nourished in your life, in your lifetime, and your all the different wisdoms and gifts that perhaps got missed because we didn't know to look for them there, and all the pieces coming together now as you're coming of age again, right, coming into your wisdom years. And it really is a synchronous perfect timing to be giving yourself this gift of taking this time to reflect on all of these things, um, and paint out those images, paint out those faces. And I just also want to acknowledge your listening, your deep listening, your willingness to take a pause and to feel whatever it is inside of you that says, wait a second, hold on, maybe something different than what you had planned is what actually needs to happen. And you've described that process several times of taking a breath and taking a pause because something was feeling not quite there yet, not quite ready yet, thinking you're ready, but feeling not quite ready yet, and that something else is needed first, or some additional thing is being asked for or contributed to the preparation or the ceremony itself. So it's just so beautiful to witness and to support and to hold this process that you're going through this apprenticeship. So thank you so much for joining me and for contributing your beautiful artwork to the Oracle deck. It's just a lovely blessing and a gift. I'm really excited to share with the designer, and to see the pictures that you send when you get some good pictures of these pieces, so that we can incorporate some of them into the deck. It's really inspiring.
Thank you, Salma. It will be an honour. It really will be an honour. And I'd just like to say as well, this is what your work embodies. You have so much to offer in the practices that your work, it can be non-linear, and so it's always allowing that, just pause and, I need to do this, I need to do this practice, or, I need to allow, and this is what your cards embody as well. It's asking a question and feeling. So it's all about allowing that movement, that freedom of movement, to receive what is going to nourish and heal at the same time. And it's never the same for one. There's so much in your apprenticeship that will allow for such a diversity of people to go in and receive different things, exactly what they need. Yeah, it's an amazing lifetime work, Sana. So hats off to you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for joining on the journey and appreciating it. It sure is fulfilling for me to hear feedback like you give and have given throughout the process, to really have the work that I'm offering, my life's work, be recognized for the value that it has. So I appreciate that too. So thank you for joining me on the podcast to talk about that and share with the listeners. And listeners, if you're interested in learning more about the Bio-Mystical Womb Apprenticeship or the Bio-Mystical Womb Oracle card deck, we have a Kickstarter campaign going on right now that you can contribute to. I'll have links underneath in the description of this podcast. And if you have womb art that you might like to contribute to the creation of this Bio-Mystical Womb Oracle deck, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll also put the link to the application to contribute to the deck, your artwork, in the description below this podcast as well. So there we have it. Are there any last words that you'd like to add before we finish up here, Hazel?
Just to say thank you, Sama. Actually, just to say thank you for, because I can appreciate the tremendous amount of energy, whether it's time or your energy that you're putting into this work, which is ultimately the benefit of all, all beings. So just recognizing that and saying thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, wonderful, Hazel. So good to be with you today, and hope to hear from listeners soon who want to get involved in all of this. And that's all for now. Until next time.